Good morning, everybody. You are listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your guest, Yoshi Shiraki. No, I'm not your guest. Wait, I just heard chuckles and I was like, wait, why are people chuckling? Okay, so I'm not your guest. I don't know why I said that. I am your host. I couldn't even think of what I am. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and our very special guest is John Schaefer. John, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for asking me.
Yes, I really appreciate it. So, as you guys know who follow the show, we have success stories on our radio show all the time. In all shapes and forms, success comes in. And so I wanted to ask John to come and share his story. We are friends. I follow him on Facebook, and I noticed a post that he had posted an anniversary, which got me interested, and then I dug a little deeper by calling him. It's not like I Googled you and spied on you, just so you know, John. But I dug a little deeper, and I thought it was an amazing story. So, John, if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, the story you're asking about is my recovery story.
Yes.
And to keep it succinct to start, I was a heroin addict, and I've been clean since 1992.
Wow.
So 28 years, something like that.
Wow.
I lost track, which is a nice thing.
Yes.
Lose track.
Yes.
I got started using drugs when I was in junior high. I was very curious. I was angry, and basically I'd use stuff because I was curious.
Yes.
And then also I was angry, and so drugs helped me feel better, hide from my feelings, mask my feelings, whatever.
Got it.
And the curiosity meant that that I would basically try anything.
Gotcha.
You know? Stuff was scary, but I was curious and wanted to find out what stuff was like at the same time.
Yes.
And I remember being in high school and having health drug education classes, and they'd show you a video or whatever and tell you how stuff worked, and
right.
And then I'd try it, and I'd be like, that wasn't true.
Oh, no.
And so,
Yeah.
the education about drugs and alcohol was pretty poor, pretty inaccurate.
Got it.
And that led me to sort of not believe anything I was told and be willing to try anything.
Yes.
That combined with me being unhappy at home and uncomfortable with myself,
yes,
like most of us are when we're teenagers.
Right.
Led me to using pretty much any kind of drug that anybody would put in front of me, and eventually led me to heroin. At the time, there wasn't all the synthetic prescription opioids that there are now.
Yeah.
I mean, they existed, but those were pretty exotic to us.
Got it.
I started using heroin. I think the first time I used it, I was 16. Actually, that was a synthetic. But then when I was in college, I started being able to get actual heroin.
Gotcha.
And it takes. I was never really hooked in college.
Okay.
I made it through college.
Yeah.
Graduated. My college years were very messy. And my last year, I got kicked off campus and lived off campus.
Oh.
But graduated, made
Yes.
it through, and then after college, that's when my real addiction started. I didn't have any money in college. My family doesn't have money.
Yeah.
And so I was just getting by.
Got it.
But after college, got a job, had money, started spending all my money on drugs, and it takes more or less about 30 days to get an actual physical addiction.
Oh.
Using every day.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's sort of a general rule. So, if, people who are using prescription opioids.
Yes.
If you have a prescription and you use them for 30 days, you're going to have a physical addiction.
Got it.
And doctors will manage that for you, and you might feel crappy and not even know why.
Right.
But, anyway, so after I had money and I started using heroin every day because it was awesome and
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, I had a physical addiction, and then things like slowly went downhill from there.
Got it.
Like, you know, you start spending your food money, your rent money. Eventually, you end up stealing or doing something to
Right.
to
Support
pay
it.
for it. Yeah.
Sure.
And I lived in Boston at the time, and I lasted there 2 years, and then gave up on living in Boston, moved back home with my family.
Which was California.
Yeah, and got on a methadone program. Lived with my dad, and that lasted for I don't know how long. I was reasonably productive.
Yes.
But methadone is really hard. You have to go check in every day. You have to pee in a bottle, so they test to make sure you're not using other drugs.
Got it.
And so if anything goes wrong, like you can't pee or something,
Yeah.
they don't give you your methadone, or you can't pay you actually have to pay for methadone. I see on social media people talking about methadone being free. That's not true. You have to pay for it, and it's expensive.
Oh, got it.
So anything goes wrong, you don't get your methadone, then you get sick, and opiate withdrawal is pretty horrible, and methadone withdrawal in particular. Methadone withdrawal is way worse than heroin withdrawal.
Interesting.
So once you get on methadone, if you lose your supply, it's
Yeah.
extra bad, and then you want to feel better.
Right.
You want to be able to live and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And feel better.
Yeah.
And you know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go buy some dope.
Right.
And
right.
so it didn't take very long before I was just back on using heroin, and because the methadone was a pain.
Yeah.
And eventually what happened is I stole from my family one too many times. My mom called the cops, and I went to jail, and that's how I got clean.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
That was the first time you went to jail through all this process?
I only went to jail once.
Okay. First and last.
Yeah, first and last. I was locked up for, I think, 30 days. I mean, it was a
Okay.
long time ago, so
Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah.
the details, but I was locked up for about 30 days. Got sentenced. The judge gave me an option: either stay in jail for 6 months, I think,
Okay.
or do a 90-day live-in program.
Got it.
I think it was a 90-day. It might have been 6 months too.
Okay.
Can't remember. It's
28 years
A
ago.
long time ago.
Yeah.
It's a blessing to not remember the details.
Yeah, exactly.
So I took the program because I thought it would be easier.
Yeah.
And even when I was in jail, I was still trying to get drugs. You can get drugs in jail.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
I never managed to, though, because you have to have cash, and getting cash in jail is tricky. Or you have to have something to trade.
Uh-huh.
It's complicated.
Yes.
And I was lucky or blessed, depending on how you want to say it.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to never get any drugs while I was in jail.
Right.
So that
Despite your efforts of trying,
yeah, that
didn't happen.
Exactly. That 30 days what essentially got me through my withdrawals
Oh.
and gave me a little breathing room.
Yes.
And then I went to the program, and even when I first got to the program, I still was trying to get drugs.
Right.
But I don't remember exactly when, but at some point I quit trying and I started listening to what people were telling me, people who had some clean time and some knowledge,
Yeah.
and I haven't used since.
Got it.
Most people's experience is that they have multiple relapses, and
Yes.
for whatever reason I've never had any relapses.
Very cool.
But the program was 12-step based.
Okay.
So I went to AA meetings and NA meetings, and I rarely go now, but that was my path, and
Yeah.
I know it works.
Yeah.
If you do what you're told.
Yeah.
So when people ask me how to get clean or how I did it, that's
Yeah.
what I tell them. There are other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think different things work for different people, and so I don't have like an attitude about this is the only thing that works.
Sure.
I just know that worked for me,
Right.
so that's what I tell people.
Got it.
If they want to explore other things, cool, but at the same time I know that works, so like I'm maybe a little apprehensive about people. One thing in 12-step programs that we say is people always look for the easier, softer way.
Yeah.
And that's a 12-step cliche, easier, softer way. And we do. We want to do it the easy way. We want to, you know, we don't want to go to meetings. We don't want to work on ourselves. We want to just like quit and have it be easy.
Yes.
But it doesn't really work like that. You have to, like, if you have some kind of substance abuse problem, it's generally because you are trying to solve emotional problems with substances.
Got it.
And it might not even be substances. You know, there's sex addicts, food addicts.
Yeah.
Human beings can use anything to make ourselves feel better and hide from our reality.
Right.
Our feelings.
Right.
And so if you don't work on yourself, eventually, chances are you're going to have a relapse.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that I'm like a great example of working on myself, because I don't want to work on myself either.
Right. Right.
I want to, I want things to be easy.
Yeah.
But based on my results, I worked on myself at least just enough to stay clean.
Yeah. For 28 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
And I could be a better person, and if I can still use all the tools that I learned in the 12 steps stuff to be a better person. They're applicable to pretty much anything. That's one thing that I learned as I got older and had time, is I realized that my problem wasn't really drugs.
Yeah.
Drugs were a problem.
Right.
But the drugs, once you remove those,
yes,
then the problem is me and my behavior and my feelings and how I react to them and how I behave.
Right.
Based on the feelings.
Right.
So, of course, I can still get better, and I actually, like I said, I rarely go to meetings anymore.
Yes.
But last year I started going to some again, partly because I found that there was a tiny meeting in a community I'm part of at Alta, the ski resort.
Oh.
There's like 3 of us.
Got it.
And so I started to go into that a little bit because it's my people, right?
Yeah.
You know, people who build their life around skiing.
Yeah.
And it felt like home. So I started, and also because I wanted to, improve myself.
Yes.
And, but probably the most important reason is giving back. If you're a skier, outdoor person, whatever, and you're traveling, you're on vacation.
Yeah.
The ski resorts are all very much party atmospheres, and if you're in recovery, that's kind of a rough place to be, especially if you're with like a bunch of buddies or something.
Right.
And so I really felt like it was important to be there for people who maybe were needed some support while they were traveling, or even people who work at the resorts.
Yeah.
A lot of them are kids.
Yes.
In their 20s, right out of college or whatever, and they go up there and it's party all the time atmosphere.
Right.
And it can go downhill real fast for people.
Gotcha.
So it's good to have a community, support community up there.
That makes sense.
It'll be interesting this year with pandemic, because there aren't really, I don't know, I suppose there are meetings in person.
Oh,
but
right.
There's 12-step Zoom meetings now.
I see.
I haven't done one of those.
Yeah.
But, everything's weird right now.
Everything is weird, yes. And I might not be accurate 100% on this, but for the listeners, you are a photographer for extreme sports.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you capture Olympians, you capture BMX bikers. I saw a picture that you had some guy jumping over like a cliff on his bike.
Yeah.
And he was in between cliff to cliff and in midair, and it was a really amazing picture.
Yeah, we call that a road gap.
A road gap. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you took a picture of an amazing road gap.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to let the listeners know that this is, and you ski and mountain bike as well, because you've got to follow these guys, but
yeah.
do you compete at all? Have you ever competed?
No, I'm not I'm not competitive.
But you're really good.
Well, it really good is relative.
Okay.
I am always the worst person with the people I'm skiing or riding with.
Gotcha.
But they are, they're like top level athletes.
They're the best in the world.
They're the best in the world, or they're at least very, very good.
Yes.
And I can hang on.
Yes.
But I know my limits. I'm also way older than most of them.
Sure, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, I'm 53, and a lot of the people I spend time with are in their mid-20s.
Wow.
So, a lot of the time I am hard on myself and just think I suck. And then I remind myself that I'm twice as old as most of the people I spend time with, and I'm carrying a camera backpack.
There you go. Yeah.
And, so I have to give myself a break.
Yes. Very exciting, though, the images I've seen you post on Facebook, how you capture these extreme sport athletes.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with action photography. I started out as a sort of a fine art photographer.
Got it.
In college, and then at some point I started shooting sports. First it was motorcycle racing.
Oh.
Because I rode motorcycles then. I don't ride motorcycles anymore.
Got it.
I just pedal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the sports photography thing is interesting. It's very addictive because part of it is technical and there's a lot of control. I have a lot of control over how I shoot stuff.
Yes.
Composition, exposure, all that stuff. But at the same time, there's a part that you're not in control of, and that's what the athlete's doing. That's whatever unknown happens, timing. So it's like you can never get a perfect photo.
Yeah.
And you always want to see what'll happen every time. You never quite know. Especially with skiing, powder skiing. Part of that obsession is like, what is the snow going to do?
Oh, sure.
So when you're doing powder photos, the skier makes a turn and the snow blows up, and sometimes sometimes the skier disappears. Sometimes you see nothing but pole. Sometimes you see nothing but goggles, and you just never know. And it's so exciting to do it. Yeah. Especially on a day with really good conditions where you know you're going to get good photos, but you never quite know what's going to happen.
Right. That makes sense. I wanted the listeners to know that that's what you do, and that's why you were talking about the community at Alta being your family.
Yeah.
So
that's also the success part of the story. Is that so I told the crappy part, but the good part is I have a quick story, which is that at one time I sold my shoes to buy drugs. And now I get paid to ride bikes and ski. Yes. So that's an important thing to tell people, especially people who are trying to get clean or sober, that you can recover. We can recover. We do recover. That there is hope. Yes. So that's an important message. Right. When you're in the midst of addiction, it feels like nothing can change, and it's just going to be bad, and you're just going to keep going back. Yeah. Feels like there's nothing you can do, but change is possible, and that's my story. Living on the street, so going to jail. Yeah. Being around people that had spent their lives in prison, thinking that that's what was probably going to happen to me. Right. And now I spend my time, in a week I'm going to be skiing and getting paid for it. I know, that's great. And last week I was in southern Utah riding bikes and getting paid for it. Right. So, things can get better. Yeah. You have to do some work and you have to be patient, but things can get better. There you go. I mean, talk about an awesome life. I mean, dude, he lives like your dad's dream life. His dad's an outdoorsman, right? We've had two people in a row now where your dad would have loved to have been part of we had, I don't know if you know Diane Thomas, she's an outdoors expert, and so she, so she's was more well known when you and I were children. She was on the Today Show for 8 years and stuff. But so that is very exciting. If you don't mind me asking, how long was the phase of your life that you were from junior high when you got started to when you went to jail and got clean? I got clean when I was 25, so the first time I ever used something, I was probably 12. my family was Mormon. But I lived in California, not in Utah, so like, you know, culture's a little different. And
Yeah.
I think I probably tried it. I think I probably used alcohol first. I don't really remember.
Got it.
I was using heroin like more or less daily, probably for 4 years or so.
Okay.
A lot of heroin addicts get clean a lot later than that because it's really hard to stop.
Sure.
And like, you know, for whatever reason, I got lucky and,
Yeah.
got arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, never used again.
Yeah.
Usually people relapse, but I didn't. So about probably 4 or 5 years of using heroin. And then, yeah, since then, nothing.
Gotcha. So it's about almost a 12-year window of your life, 13-year window of your life, it sounds like, from 12 years old to 25, you said.
Yeah, that you know, like, I sort of took care of business, but
Yeah.
also my life revolved around
Yes.
drinking and getting high.
Right,
Like,
right.
That was sort of the goal all the time.
Got it. Okay. Gotcha. That is amazing. You know, I've heard, and so it was an interesting statistic you just shared with me that it takes approximately 30 days of consistent use before you're addicted. I've heard that, like, people get addicted on heroin after day one. That's not accurate then, right?
So, well, you can use the word addiction probably. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the word addiction can have multiple meanings. So, like, I remember the first time I used heroin feeling like, oh, this is the answer. This is for me. This
Yeah.
is like, if it was perfect for me.
Right.
I will still say that I'm in love with opiates.
Right,
There's
right.
nothing that, to me, that's ever felt that good.
Got it.
That said, so that there's that kind of addiction, like, it sort of completed me.
Got it.
And I loved it.
Got it.
At the same time, there's a physical addiction, and that's a different thing.
Gotcha.
The physical addiction is like, if I stop, I'm gonna get sick, and
Oh,
so that's the
I see.
addiction. And so, like,
Got it. Makes sense.
you may not be in love with opiates. Maybe you get prescribed an opiate and
Yeah.
you use it for 30 days.
Yes.
You know, because it's prescribed by the doctor.
Right.
You're gonna have a physical habit at that point.
Right.
It may be a little shorter, it may be a little longer, I don't know.
Yes.
But you're gonna have a physical habit and you're gonna get sick when you stop. That's why it's really important to, like, listen to what the doctor tells you to do when you're taking, you know, whatever, oxycodone or...
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I've had surgery since, and that was kind of scary for me because
Oh,
I was
sure.
taking opiates.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, I recognize that feeling, and,
Yeah.
and I love it.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and I did love it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so the physical addiction is really dangerous, and you gotta, like, even if you don't love the opiates, you'll still get physically addicted.
Got it. So this is probably a dumb question. Sorry, I've never realized okay, so when you broke down what the definition of physical addiction is, that totally makes sense. How difficult then is, and maybe there's no such thing, but mental addiction, right? Like, so I could see how you're like, okay, I'm not feeling good, I need to do it to feel better, but if you're not feeling sick, is it more easy to be mentally like, I'm not going to do it until, of course, you feel sick, and then you're like, oh crap, no, now I need to do it? Or is mental addiction just as bad? Or does it even play a part, really? Is it all physical?
It's trickier. It's sneakier.
Okay.
Because, like, even, like, I've been clean for a long time, but even now, like, I don't want to take drugs. I'm not really tempted ever at this point.
Sure.
It could happen.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be dishonest with myself about it or
Yeah.
fool myself. But when my stress level's really high, I'll have drug dreams. Those
Oh.
have never gone away.
Interesting.
I'll have dreams where I'm looking for drugs or I've used drugs and have all the feelings in the dreams of, like, shame, fear, all the stuff that went along with the drugs. Like,
Yeah.
it's so deep in my psyche that I'll still have dreams about that stuff. And that's the mental addiction. I've accepted that it's never going to go away.
Got it.
I'm more or less okay with it.
Yeah.
You wake up and you're like, oh man, that was only a dream. I'm so happy that was only a dream.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
You know, the mental addiction plus the physical addiction together are really vicious. And with opiates, like they go together so well, because you have that love for the feeling plus, like whatever reason you're using the drugs to mask your feelings and stuff, it's just your problem solver,
Right.
People want to come home and have a beer at the end of the day,
Yeah.
or they want to, whatever it is, like
Right.
you have this like relief valve, where you get to shut down and relax,
Right.
and it's just with opiates in particular, it's so dangerous.
Right. Yep. That makes sense. Okay, cool. I want the listeners to be able to find you. Where can they follow you, find you? You have a photography, Instagram, Facebook website that they can go check out your images. Do you mind sharing where they can find you and follow you?
No, I do not mind sharing
Okay.
that. My website is photojohn.net. That's photo-john.net. And that's a blog website, and it's got some galleries on it, so it's sort of like story article style.
Nice.
It has a whole bunch of photos. And then I'm on Instagram as photojohnphoto, and that's just pure photo stuff. Almost all landscape, adventure, outdoor. My last couple posts, I think, were landscape stuff, but very shortly, like next week, it'll be switching to lots of snow.
Right.
Probably do a little teaser. It's probably time to do a teaser ski photo.
Yeah.
And then I'm also on Facebook. I have a business page. It's that one. I'm not sure what it is. If you search photo-john on Facebook, I'm sure it'll come up.
Got it.
I've been doing this a long time, so
Yeah.
Google will find me.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's awesome. That is awesome. And do you like when you say you're going to do a teaser? Do you get access to the resort before the rest of us?
Oh, yes, sometimes.
What?
Um,
Can I come?
So yeah, one benefit of my job, which is photographer for the marketing department, is occasionally we do what's called early ups, and that's you get on the lift early to go ski with some pros to get photos before stuff's tracked out.
Oh.
And no, you can't go with me.
Dang it.
Usually, like I said, it's with pros. It's very controlled, and that's one thing with the pandemic this year.
Of course.
I don't quite know what's going to happen with that, how that's going to work.
Got it.
And I'm also I don't do it very often.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other pro photographers that aren't employees, and
Yeah.
they're kind of higher priority.
Yeah.
And so I rarely do it, but yeah, I do get to do that, and on a good powder day, that's pretty awesome.
God, no kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. That's fantastic. When will you get access to the resort then, your first day?
My first day is next Saturday.
Really?
That's supposed to be opening day.
That's supposed to be opening day. Got it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Always hedge a little bit because you don't know what's going to happen. Like you don't know what the snow is going to be like. If there's going to be enough snow, sometimes we end up opening a little later.
Yeah.
The snow's looking good this year. The pandemic is the unknown. Whether there will be some
Right.
changes because of that, because we shut down a month early last year.
Right.
And it was a surprise decision. Like I
Yeah.
went home and got an email that night. That we were done for the season.
Wow, crazy. Do you know what they're doing different that are making things safe versus closing early last year, or just we know more about the pandemic now, so just wear a mask?
Yeah, there's a link on every ski resort website on the homepage, and in general, they're going to be limiting the number of people. They're going to be requiring masks whenever you're close to people, encouraging people to keep 6 feet distance.
Got it.
If you're indoors, masks will be required. Masks will be required, I think, on lifts. So, it's all obvious stuff.
Yeah.
The trickiest one is probably going to be limiting visitors.
Got it.
And there's all kinds of strategies out there for that. From reservations to get
Yes.
tickets to, I'm actually not sure what Alta's doing. But they are talking about limiting visitors.
Okay, got it. Very cool. All right, we got sidetracked there on skiing because I got curious about the season.
Everybody's curious.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. All right. So, what advice can you share with somebody out there who happens to be listening that is going through what you went through, or, maybe somebody who's listening that has a loved one who's going through what you went through? What kind of advice can you share to the listeners?
The number one thing in the message, the reason I talk about this is I always want people to know that change is possible. That's
right.
my continual message, and that's the reason I talk about this, that
right.
You can change, that it isn't permanent, you're not cursed, you aren't stuck.
Right.
For people who want to change, I always encourage them to go to 12-step meetings because, again, that's how I got clean and sober.
Got it.
And I know it works.
Got it.
There are other options, but regardless of what, explore other options.
Yeah.
But 12-step meetings work if you do what you're told.
Gotcha.
Some people worry because they aren't religious, or maybe you're Jewish and the 12-step program is very Christian based.
Got it.
I'm pretty much an atheist.
Yeah.
And it's fine with me.
Right.
So don't let that scare you away. It's a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do what you need to do to survive.
Right.
Do what you need to do to get better. The family thing is a little trickier. I'm very sympathetic with families, friends, loved ones who have people in active addiction, since I subjected my family and friends to that.
Yes.
The main, some people would talk about tough love, and I don't know that. I think the understanding of that is changing. That, like, tough love, just be tough and cut them off, and people end up on the streets, people die.
Yeah.
This is no joke. It's life and death stuff.
Right.
And so I don't know about tough love in sort of the traditional sense. Giving people money is probably not good.
Yeah.
Helping them support their habit.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing you can do is just continue to love people, let them know that you love them, and encourage them to get better. You can't make somebody get clean.
Right.
If they're not ready, they're not ready. And,
right.
And you just aren't in control of them.
Right.
But you can keep pointing them in the right direction and let them know that you care about them. Our whole culture's attitude is changing from punitive
Yep.
and criminal,
Yep.
treating addicts as criminals and wanting to punish them,
Yeah.
to treating it as a medical and even a spiritual problem.
Got it.
And I think that's really healthy, and that's a better way to look at it. Instead of punishing people, help them.
Yes. Yeah, what you touched on is actually one of the questions. You've kind of already answered it, but I've also often heard that you can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped, right? If they don't want to quit, it's hard to make somebody quit because they're not going to quit. And I feel like it'd be a very delicate dance to be supportive if support's not wanted.
Yeah.
And so when you say just keep pointing them in the right direction, like how much do you feel it's a good idea? Like, obviously, if it's a loved one, you want to keep pointing them in the right direction, but they might not want to hear that. Any tips or advice on just letting them know how much you care and love them, and this is why you're doing it, and so don't be mad that I'm trying to support you even though you don't want to be supported?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember being, an active addict and being around my family, and my family trying to help me, and me being just absolutely uninterested. and annoyed. So I'm really sympathetic to that problem.
Yeah.
But I don't have an answer for that,
Sure.
other than, consistently trying to be supportive without being a sucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's always going to be, I'd say that's always going to be awkward, uncomfortable, and feel unsuccessful.
Right.
But it's still the right thing to do.
Right.
Unfortunately, like, if you're with addiction, everybody's going to be unhappy and miserable.
Right.
Like, the addict's going to make the family and friends and loved ones miserable. Like, it's not just that person. And so the process for the family and loved ones is going to be miserable too. There's just no way around it.
Right.
It's a sad truth.
Oh, absolutely. Probably one of the most difficult things for your mom to do, right? Call the cops and send you to jail?
I'm sure.
Maybe the most difficult thing she's ever done in her whole life.
I don't know, she was pretty mad.
maybe not that difficult at that very moment.
Right. She's still kind of mad.
Oh, gotcha. Got it. Oh, okay. Well, oftentimes you hear in life in general, if you want to become something, a professional athlete, a successful real estate investor, we talk about real estate a lot on the show, an entrepreneur, you have to go find those circle of friends and not necessarily abandon your circle, but if your circle of friends just plays Xbox all day and you have an aspiration to be a real estate investor, then not abandon these friends completely, but go find a new circle of friends. I have to imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably abandoned your old circle of friends that maybe were part of your encouragement of getting high.
Yeah. There's a sort of a 12-step cliche that if you don't want a haircut, don't go to the barbershop.
Oh, sure. Sure, that makes sense.
And so, like, one of the first things you do is you find a bunch of new friends. And generally, if, like, for me, in 12-step program, it's 12-step people.
Yeah.
So you're spending your time, or you go to lots of meetings, and you spend time with those people.
Yeah.
You go to a meeting, you go out to the coffee shop after and get coffee or food or whatever, and you spend all your time with those people, and it keeps you safe.
Yes.
I am, at this point, still friends with people that I used with, who are clean, and some of them had a lot more problem or a lot more trouble than me, but those were formative times in my life, and I am still friends with them. But yeah, at the time, like, you pretty much have to quit hanging out with the people you were hanging out with.
Got it.
Especially, like, if it's opiates, because, like, your life is just so focused on the spoon.
Right.
Lucky for me, like I said earlier, that I'd lived in Boston when I was using a whole lot. When I moved back to California, I really didn't have a whole lot of friends left there.
Got it.
And any friends I had quickly fell away because I was such a scumbag.
Ah.
And so I didn't, like, all the people that I was hanging out with were pretty much just street addicts.
Got it.
And it was not hard to stay away from them.
Got it.
And also, I used mostly in a different city than where my family lived and where I went to jail. So when I got clean, it was a different city than where I would go to buy my drugs.
Got it.
That made, like, there were a bunch of things that were just lucky for me.
Yeah.
That made things a little easier.
Yeah. That makes sense. So yeah, moving around from California to Boston, what brought you to Utah, Salt Lake? I'm assuming Salt Lake. Did you start here?
Yeah.
Okay.
My family were early Mormons, so I had roots here. I'd lived here for a year when I was a kid. My grandparents lived here. I have lots of relatives here. My dad more or less grew up in Ogden.
Got it.
And I had a long-distance relationship with a girl in Denver.
Okay.
And then she moved to Utah. And I started coming out to visit her from California.
Got it.
And discovered that there was good mountain biking here.
Oh, nice.
And I hadn't skied for years, but I started skiing a little bit again.
Okay.
And I moved out here for the girl
Okay.
who promptly dumped me.
Oh, no.
Like within a few weeks via text.
Uh-huh.
It was awesome.
Okay.
And then I had what I called the summer of angry riding.
Oh, got it.
Not using drugs or drinking.
Oh, good.
Like, it's sort of hard to manage that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so I would mountain bike about 5 or 6 times a week to manage my feelings. I also worked from home.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in front of the computer just angry.
Yeah.
And I'd go for rides to manage my feelings.
That's awesome.
I was super fit that year. Yeah, so I moved out here for a girl. She dumped me, and I met my wife here like a year later, and so, it worked out.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right. So we are going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you for some tips of success as well as tips of keeping your mindset strong. You'd mentioned earlier that you work on yourself, and you've been able to work on yourself maybe just enough to be right, but you're aware there's things you could do to keep working on yourself. We're going to dive into that a little bit, if you don't mind, mindset and tips to success.
Sure.
Okay, great, excellent. So stay tuned, everybody. We will be right back after this commercial break. Sweet. I just realized the time. I was like, oh man, we haven't taken a commercial yet.
Are we staying on track enough for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's actually good. When we don't take a commercial, I put them in there because I'm kind of supposed to, but I have the flexibility not to do it.
It means the flow's good. And yeah, there's no blank spots.
Exactly. There's room for 3 commercials. As you can see, we're 10 minutes out from the end, and we're taking our first. I've had to, when some guests use all 3 commercials, because they weren't talking much, so they didn't have a lot of answers.
I'm fairly self-centered. I can talk a lot about myself.
A little more convenient.
Oh, that's awesome.
Today.
All right, here we go. All right, guys, we are back. You are listening to K-Talk Radio 1640 AM. This is the show Utah Home Sweet Home. I'm your host, Yoshi Shiraki. Our very special guest is John Schaefer. John, thank you so much again for joining me today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. All right, so let's dive into some tips for success first, and then tips on keeping your mindset strong. And I don't know if I've once watched a documentary, I think it was on HBO, years ago. I was still living in New York City at the time, and it was on people who had gotten clean, and they had credited, and this rang a bell when you just talked about your bike riding, they had credited part of their ability to stay clean was they got involved in physical fitness type activities, running, cycling, I don't know if CrossFit was back then, but like aerobic stuff. And they said that by getting this energy out, it was a huge way to help them forget about what they always wanted to do instead. Is that accurate?
Yeah. When I first got clean, I wasn't that active.
Okay.
But now it's very clear to me, and I consciously use exercise to manage stress, feelings, all that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great. When I got clean, I just, I would lift weights and stuff.
Okay.
But that's not the same as going for, a 2-3 hour mountain bike ride.
Right.
I am very aware of the good chemicals that exercise releases, especially mountain biking and skiing and high level cardio activity. Skiing not so much, but big mountain bike rides are really good for me. They let me work stuff out of my head, you kind of get in that zone and your subconscious starts working and you aren't really thinking, but stuff's happening in your subconscious.
Right.
And also time in nature. So for me, it's a combination of the exercise and the time outdoors in the mountains or the desert or whatever. I said earlier that I'm pretty much an atheist.
Yeah.
That said, I feel closest to God for lack of a better way to put it,
Yeah.
when I'm outdoors
Got
in
it.
the mountains or, feeling small.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That's good for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. If you don't mind, tips to success. I mean, probably you have tips for your own success. You've seen other people have different success tips. In general, can you share some tips that you've seen work for success on being able to stay strong?
As far as recovery goes, like one of the things that I think that I've been lucky with is that I never forget where I came from. I've known people who had relapses and they told me that they forgot and they wanted to feel better, so they got high again, but they forgot about the consequences.
Got it.
I've never forgotten where I came from. I keep that close.
Yeah.
Like I said, I sold my shoes once. I don't forget that stuff. I don't forget
Yes.
like going to buy drugs, crying
Yeah.
while I was going.
Right.
Because I didn't want to buy them, but I didn't know how not to. I don't forget that stuff.
Right.
So keeping that stuff close, remember where you came from, because I don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
And then also being honest and having self-awareness, like knowing when I've done something wrong
Yep.
and being able to admit it, and being able to sort of like step outside myself and look, and like I said about the drug dreams,
Yeah. Yeah.
like just being aware of stuff like that triggers.
Right.
Knowing that they're happening, and being honest with myself about it. Like there's things like certain smells, certain times of the year that are triggers for me. Just they remind me of things, and they give me feelings, and the feelings make me want to do things. And
Right.
But I'm pretty aware of all that stuff now,
Got it.
and so that self-awareness is really important. And knowing that, as far as addiction goes, knowing that I don't have to use. I don't have to.
Right.
That's a hard thing to learn.
Got it. That makes sense. I mean, once you get to the point where you are, like you said, you're getting, as a photographer of extreme sport athletes, you get paid to go ski with these guys. You get paid to go ride mountain bikes with these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty amazing.
And that stuff would go away real quick if
Yeah.
I started using again.
Exactly.
Like it'd be gone in weeks probably. I'd be selling stuff.
Right.
I'd be
You've got a
selling
lot of-
stuff, and I wouldn't be fit, and I wouldn't want to go out, and like it wouldn't take long at all.
Yes, that makes total sense. Okay, tips to keeping your mindset strong, or maybe just working on your mindset. We talk about mindset a lot on this show, whether it's an athlete who has to believe that they are the best when it's their turn to, in your case, let's say at the top of a the Olympics, that guy, one bit of doubt that creeps in his head as he launches off that mountain, representing the United States of America, is probably not the best way to do that Olympic race versus like, I am the greatest kind of a thought. Any mindset tips that you have?
Well, I mean, we were just sort of talking about that, but one thing with addiction is that a lot of people will talk about like stay strong, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Ironically, that's not really the best approach. Like we all, addicts, alcoholics, whatever, try to stop by being strong. Try to just like grit their teeth and be tough.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really work.
Got it.
What works is letting go, admitting who you are, admitting your problem, and letting outside help you.
Yes.
So, like, trying to be tough and strong is it's counterintuitive, but that's generally the wrong approach. At least in my experience, and most of the people I know, that's the wrong approach.
Right.
So allowing yourself to admit that you're an addict and that you're weak in that area.
Yeah.
Being tough is when you know you're weak in that area. Trying to be tougher,
Right.
it's not going to work.
Right.
And then again, like remembering who I am, remembering where I came from, and not thinking like, oh, it's okay for me to have a beer, it'll be all right. I watched a friend die because he started thinking it was okay to drink again, and then a little while later, I got, a phone call that he'd overdosed.
Oh no.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Honesty is one of the biggest things. Being honest with yourself.
Got it. Sorry to hear that. Right, friend. Yeah.
Comes with the territory.
Yeah. Do you find yourself studying books on mindset at all, or listening to mindset speakers or anything like that?
No, that's not really my style.
Okay.
I'm sort of an obsessive person. I was obsessed with drugs. Now I'm obsessed with photography and my two activities, skiing and mountain biking, and so I don't know if it's everything that's a blessing is a curse too, in a way, right?
Yeah.
So I'm obsessed, and as far as mindset goes, like periodically I'll have to remind myself to stay focused. But again, I have some self-awareness, so I'm not looking for outside help with that stuff.
Sure.
I have to remind myself to stay focused. And occasionally I'll get lazy, just want to watch TV, and then I'll start to feel bad, and I'll realize, if I go take some pictures, if I go for a bike ride and take some pictures, I'll feel better.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just blessed with
knowing what works for you.
And being obsessed. Like,
yeah,
I'm very focused on a very few things, and I know people who aren't that way.
Yeah.
But I am, like, I just keep going back to the same things and don't quit.
That's great. No, that's perfect. It reminds me. I was chatting with a gentleman once who hated his 9 to 5, and so he was asking me how to get involved. Yeah, he's like, Yoshi, I hate my 9 to 5. I've been at that company for 18 years. My dream would be to do something else. And so he was asking me about real estate, because he sees that I have a lot more flexibility in my schedule than him. I don't have to go punch in necessarily. And I asked him, I said, if you could have your dream job, you're asking me about real estate, but you don't even know if you like real estate. If you could have your dream job, what would it be? And it blew my mind because he had no idea. He goes, I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
I've always been in my job. I've never thought what a dream job would look like. And so it is a blessing for you to kind of just know what's working for you and have that clarity. Is where I guess I'm going with all that.
Yeah. I've had all kinds of jobs, and I've done all kinds of things, lived all kinds of places, but consistently through all that time, I've wanted to take pictures.
Yeah.
I ended up mountain biking and skiing and taking pictures of those things because I generally end up taking pictures of what I'm doing.
Right.
But yeah, even when I had jobs that I hated, I was doing photography at the same time. There was a short period when I sold off all my camera gear to buy drugs.
Yeah.
And I didn't take any pictures.
Right.
But I'm lucky. I'm obsessed with photography.
That's awesome.
I know photographers who, if they aren't getting paid, won't carry a camera with them.
Yeah.
Won't ski with a camera, won't ride with a camera, just have the phone.
Right.
That's not me.
Yeah.
I'm always skiing, always riding with the camera.
Right.
I have to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wonderful. Excellent. Well, John, we are at the end of our show. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for inviting me. This was good. I like to be able to share my experience.
Absolutely. We are a show about success stories. When I read on Facebook your success story, I said, there are a lot of people out there who could probably use this message, and it's an amazing success story. And so I was very excited to have you come in, so thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, you've been listening to K-Talk Radio 1640. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I hope everybody has a spectacular rest of the day. Okay, before we part ways, in case you have a dog or know someone else who does have a dog, I wanted to take a quick second to show you the Snap Leash. The Snap Leash can literally do so many things. and I'm going to share with you one of the many cool things that it can do. As you can see, the snap leash is designed with 2 swivel hooks, one on each end. This end has a cushion stitched into it to make it comfortable when walking your dog. Now, all you have to do is take this swivel hook, put it into this very first grommet, and now you've got your handle. Okay, so now let's imagine you're at the park and you want to secure your pet quickly, safely, and easily to a park bench, a tree, or a pole because you just want to sit down and relax. Well, all you need to do is take this swivel hook, remove it from the very first grommet, wrap this leash around any size tree or pole or park bench, and put it into the appropriate grommet, and now you have secured your pet quickly, safely, and easily. And when it's time to head home, another great feature about the snap leash is you can simply wrap it around your waist for hands-free walking. Lastly, if you ever accidentally forget your waist bags at home, these grommets make a great place to fasten the waist bags so you never leave home without them. And if you want to see all of the other cool things that the snap leash can do, then please just click on the link below and find out why so many others are falling in love with the snap leash.